Welcome to the Better Two podcast with DM Needham. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is, well, she's a musician, an actress, an advocate. Our guest today is Bridget Barkan, and she and I sit down and we talk about all sorts of things from music to acting to energy to, well, you're just going to have to tune in to find out. Hi, Bridget. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you today?
I am good, and I know we were talking off camera that you had just gotten back from a run, so you got your energy flowing, and
Good. Nothing like a little West Side highway walking past, a homeless village on the way there and millions of things under construction, a New York City vibe. But once you get past that, there's a willow tree, there's a statue, there's green grass and a little old trolley.
and how
It,
cold is it up
it,
there? Sorry.
uh, Today it actually was not as cold. It
Okay.
was not as cold. Today, it's actually, I think, in the 50s. So it was actually a perfect day for a run.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like here, because I lived in outside of Chicago, near the Wisconsin border. There's certain days, yeah, it's like 50. Okay, I can go out in shorts, and there's other days when it's in the 20s. It's like or lower, and you're like, I think tomorrow's high or low is like 9, which is warm still considering, but yeah.
Dang. Yeah,
But
no, the weather in New York has been really schizophrenic. It got really cold and then it got really warm again, and then it's just been doing this weird dance that we do up here.
understand. I mean, when I moved up here, we used to have when we started having snow like in October. Now, maybe
No.
January, we get a dusting, and that's about it. But we didn't come here to talk about the weather. We were
I
talking about
know.
your
Literally, we're
run.
those people that are talking about the weather.
Well, we were talking about your run, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. And I mean, I understand that sometimes in the mornings you just need to get that energy going, and going out in nature, even if it's the city, it's still that energy. Because even when I go down to Chicago, there's an energy to it. There's an energy that you just connect with.
I feel like it's also getting into a different energy space because I like to sleep. I am a sleeper. I'm very good at sleep. And I will sleep until 1 p.m. until literally we had the Zoom right now. And I just feel like I'm missing out on daytime and daylight and sun. That's all good for the soul. And so I'm really about the soul work and the mental health work. So, pushing myself to get up and out is very hard, but I know that it has a reward in it for me. And that's the goal.
And that is one of the most important journeys you can be on. Yesterday I did something really interesting. I have a friend who's a hypnotherapist, and she took me
Oh,
she's learning a new protocol, and she took me on a journey to take me back into in utero
maybe I need that.
to see where your life purpose is, to see
Oh my
where
God.
some of your core wounds are. And it was really fascinating what comes up in it and what
I'm not
you
even
feel
kidding. I was just talking about this.
for you.
Like I was talking a lot about purpose with my Patreon crew. We had a Zoom earlier, and I would love that information if you
Okay.
could pass it
Yeah.
on. Okay, cool.
She's in training. I will get the information to you. I'm not sure but right now I was one of her guinea pigs, and it's a
Wow.
really interesting experience because what you're doing is you're placed back in that moment of when your soul entered your body. And so you're picking up on your parents, and that's what was
Oh,
really interesting because you would assume that when you pick up on your parents, it's going to be this joyful thing.
I
No,
wouldn't assume
it's
that.
all that anxiety and all that stress and all
Oh
that
no.
fear.
I would be like, I know exactly what was going on with my parents when they conceived me. They were on the verge of a breakup. They were having like passionate, hot, almost breakup sex um in Long Island of all places.
But see, this is the thing. It's like, and for me, it was an experience where I could actually see through my own eyes. Some people won't get
Wow.
that. I mean, I've had an experience where I was in a meditation and I was looking, for some reason, I was looking through my cat's eyes. this was years ago, and it was
Oh,
like I
that's
had put my
fantastic.
cat's face on and I could see through his eyes, which is bizarre, I know, but yeah, I've done.
No, no, you are talking to the right human because I I want to talk. I want to see through a cat's. I want to see a cat through my mom's dog's eyes because he seems like he knows all. His name is Socrates,
Okay.
and he knows that he does not know. Therefore, he knows everything, and he is the most joyous, peaceful. I'm like, if I could just like experience a level of that peace for one moment, that would be
Mm-hmm.
cool. It's kind of like being John Malkovich, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah. Well, and that's what kind of was yesterday. I was like, I put this mask on of looking through a little
Mhm.
baby's eyes. So it wasn't that it was the moment of conception. It was further along the journey.
Further along, yeah.
So it was kind of really a weird experience, and it made you look. And when you think of life purpose, that's the thing. When we think of life purpose, we think of, well, it's got to be what my career is, what I'm supposed to do with my life. And the fact is, it wasn't fully that. It was more about the life lessons you're supposed to be learning.
I, all right, first of all, when was this thing, the career, the word career, right,
Hmm.
is, my friend wrote a play and he had like this one line in it where he's like, oh yeah, and careers, now that that's a thing. And it just made me go, right, there was a time when there wasn't such a thing as a career, you know? And I think the word career puts a lot of pressure um on this, this ever evolving, like you are an ever evolving being, and so the fact that anything could be a linear trajectory is just it's just not possible. Like we're cyclical beings too. We're in a cyclical environment. And so I resonate with that so deeply because growing up as a kid actor, like I came out of the womb and I was performing,
You're baby
like
Jesus.
I was baby Jesus. Yes, you saw that. And like I literally was posing, I didn't know, obviously know I was Jesus then, but like, my conception versus like my mom's pregnancy and my birth, and that whole first couple years of my life, like I have documentation of me singing with my father at 2 and 3, even singing when I was like 6 months old with my grandmother. There was no, and you hear her on this audio tape, clear as day, saying, and she's singing a note, and then I sing the note back to her. And she goes, she's gonna be a singer. That's totally how my grandmother sounds. She's gonna be a singer. Sorry. And she's calling my dad, to come hear me sing this note with her. So like singing was always a part of me, but we sometimes take away what is our natural essence, and we it becomes the thing that has to make us money and make us famous. And it's like I am, every stage of my life always working towards remembering why I do what I do and finding joy in the thing versus it being a tool to create something that will get me to the next level or the end to justify the means. No, like what do I enjoy to do on a daily basis? What heals me? What moves me,
Well, and
And
that's
that,
the, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, that's it. And that's the thing. It's like it's our purpose in alignment isn't necessarily a thing that produces a result.
And that's you hear stories now, which I'm glad we do. You hear
Mm,
stories now about parents recognizing that their kid knows things, that they knew
mhm.
how they died in a past life, that
Oh,
they
I love
knew
the one that
that they
happened.
still
Oh,
carry on this. There's a kid, I don't remember his name, who's a fashion designer. He's got his own line of clothes
God,
now.
that kid
Yes,
is incredible. He's
but
incredible.
yeah,
I know
but
you, but I don't know his name, but I've seen him on Instagram.
and it's the same thing though. You knew your grandmother recognized you as a singer at that age, and that's something that, yes, that's at your core. That was a gift you came into this world with, and we don't always recognize that. We like to think that, okay, we're born, we die, that's it. I often equate it to a video game because, yeah, you guess
Me
what? You
too.
went through all these trials, and then
Different
face the
levels.
big you face the big boss, and you're like, yeah, I won. No, you didn't. No, no. We're
Nope.
going to make sure you did it again. We're going to make sure you get all the lessons right. And I think that's kind of how life is, and the vibe is, and the energy is. And when you're able to
Mm.
start looking at your lessons that are repeating in your life, because that was the big gift of yesterday,
Wow.
is looking at the lessons that repeat in your life and how do I navigate and move forward, and how have I grown since the last time I went through some of this?
Oh my God, you're really, yes, I'm very much in that exact same, because I've been doing a lot of reflecting. I mean, I feel like I do that often. It's not like a new thing. I've been doing that. Like I was reflecting when I was 12 about what it was like when I was 9, you know? I mean, I what lesson did I learn then? Like I've always been reflective. Um, but yeah, it's like I want to do better, right? Like that's I don't want to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect, but I want to just do better than I did last time. I want to be more authentic this time around. I want to be healthier this time around in whatever, in every relationship, whether it's business or personal, with every project. Oh, I didn't tie that loose end 10 years ago. Okay, it's time to tie the loose end, you know? And that will at least I do think that if we don't shift certain things, there are repetitions, you know, and with great, I want to believe it's with grace and not with punishment. It doesn't always feel that way. It does feel like sometimes the repetitive lesson starts to feel like you keep banging your head on the wall, you know. um so I would like it to be more like I just keep, you know, turning that corner and like doing a gentle, graceful fall onto the same bed pillow, you know? Like I don't want it to feel like I'm always hitting. I
Hmm.
want it to be like, oh, this lesson again. Okay. How do we navigate it now with a little bit more grace? Because it's life is hard as it is, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't want to feel like my lesson is always going to be painful. I would like to learn from beauty. You know, I'd like to learn from gentleness.
My therapist has a great analogy about that is because you walk down a street, there's a pothole. And you
Mm,
trip into the pothole. Okay, all right, fine. Second time you see the pothole, but you're like, oh, I can avoid it, and you still trip. The third time you're very cautious and you maneuver around the pothole, but you still kind of get hung up on it. By the
mm,
fourth time, you're like, I'm taking a different route. I'm not playing this game anymore. And I think that's a very great analogy of how we grow. While we may go through the same thing, it may not always be the tougher trauma because it's like, okay, you start to recognize those patterns. And
yeah.
that's where the points, that's the whole point of that. It's like, okay, there's that pothole. Yeah, okay. I'm better than the pothole. I can do this. And you walk right into it. I mean, it
I love this
happens.
analogy. Your therapist sounds pretty cool.
She is. And I want to give you kudos because I was spying on you on Instagram because
Please.
the thing is, there was something you were talking about when you were 17 years old and how you had this confidence and you kind of longed to go back to her because she seemed confident, she had faith, she believed in stuff. And the truth of the matter is, I have found myself in the last few years going, where is that girl that was 17 years old that didn't have a problem with stepping up to the plate and going for it and just dismissing everybody else that I can do this and not a worry. I mean, I moved across country and didn't have a fear in my bones about it in my 20s. Now, just moving was just like, oh, where am I going? What am I doing? Where am I going? I mean, before it was like, no, it's okay. Now it's like, and maybe that's because it comes with age and because all the,
I think it's because we get hurt and we know more pain. We know pain now, you know, so we know like to navigate it. It's like, you know, well, that's the thing about the pothole, right? Some people may not even leave their house anymore because they don't want to have an encounter with a pothole. And I think when you're young, you're like, oh, my bones are not that fragile. I fell in the pothole. Oh, well, I'll climb out of it, do it, you know, dust myself off. And hey, that was kind of fun. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like actually down there in the gutter, like I met some really cool friends and we hung out and we danced till, you know, 7 in the morning. And I'm coming out of the pothole now. You know, I feel like, and it's interesting because as an artist, I think I choose the pothole, you know, like I have to go in that pothole.
Mhm.
I need to. There's something in there for me to work out and get a good song. Or I need to get in that pothole. I need to get dirty. I need to get my hands dirty. I need to know what makes me a unique being an artist on this planet. And I'm not going to do that without getting my hand, without getting in
Right.
the muck, right? But it's the set for me in high school, and just like what I think about myself is that confidence, what also came with that confidence was a bit of a cunty vibe. And I think that that's what happens, unfortunately, with young women, because when we then become confident, when we have that confidence, we have to protect it in a certain way. And so, but we don't always protect it from the right people. So like there was like a lack of maybe care for people who I didn't need to be cunty to, because it was more so like an industry, or like, higher figures that I needed to have that kind of energy towards, but it was kind of misdirected power. If that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yes.
And I think that happens to a lot of people, and then and it never changes. They don't grow from that. And I
Right.
think I was given an opportunity, whereas like I had a lot of success and I was surrounded by very famous people even in high school, and then people who I grew up with who became mega stars. I was humbled. I gained a lot of humility because I was the star in a lot of circumstances, but the people around me that were maybe a little quieter, the ones that became like super mega famous. Um, and I love when like people I know say, "Oh, I ran into, whatever famous
Hmm.
person." They're like talking about you. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm so honored. I'm so glad. Have them put me in a goddamn movie." Like I'm like,
Yeah.
were thinking about me, they could find me. But no, I think what I believe, and this is what I've just chosen to believe now, is that, because whether it's the truth, who knows, that I've been put through my own a specific kind of training ground to make me in a more empathic, compassionate, caring being. And that doesn't always mean that's going to create a success story, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there's some part of me that feels like the design has been to make me to take what is a real deep truth about who I am, which is I do really care for people, and believe in healing, and can offer that, um and can be in service to others in a very pure way. So I believe that like that confidence I had as a performer in high school, you know, could have led me to so many different kinds of performance life, as an actress, as a singer, whatever. But I chose another path. I actually went to film school and like to go behind the camera. I became an activist. I became friends with people in Philadelphia who were fighting against injustice. And I really, it turned me more inward and more focusing on community. And I think that's been a big dance for me my whole life, which is from that time of still wanting to have my own dreams come true and shine bright, on a stage in front of thousands of people to like share my gift. But I also had this other environment where it wasn't at all about me shining. It was about us shining, and it was about making other people shine. And that has been more valuable to me in this, if this is the design of the Bridget Barkan life experience, like in terms of the purpose, right? They're all back there like, well, I think that we should, have her, start off with a bang, and then she's going to have to fall and reconfigure and realize what is really important in life. Like,
But then there's the question, are you a person that subscribes that, you sat there before you hit the womb going, yeah, I think I would like column A over there and column B over here for this trial. What about C? A little bit of sprinkling of C. Can we do that?
mm,
that we already picked all this stuff, and that's the thing. We don't remember that we picked all this shit.
Right. The contracts that we sign before we come here. And I do like that as a theory or belief. I do like that we decide the journey, that we're not complacent, and that there aren't just like these big angels in the sky deciding everything. Like we've done it together, we've co-created it, and we're co-creating everything going forward. And and in that case, like the life experiences that I've had where I've just been in service have been so rewarding and fulfilling. There's still a dance that I do around it because, like, when I work, so I teach now, I've been teaching for the last 2 years, young people who come from South America to take this musical theater workshop. And
Okay.
before that, and I still also do private, and I still work with Carnegie Hall, and I do songwriting workshops. Last year, or this earlier this year, I did a songwriting workshop for music teachers in New York and around the country who wanted to have songwriting workshops that they could bring to their classes. And so I moved on from just even doing a songwriting workshop to teaching people how to do them, and finding every time I was in these rooms where I'm creating community with other people, and we're all challenging each other to be better listeners of each other's stories. You know, all of that, I love those moments. And then they're like, and they want to go find my music after I've shared, right?
Hmm.
And what I still feel would be more validating for me is that there would be a very like a very clear reward that I've gained from being a songwriter, right?
Hmm.
So that's what I still strive for, is that I realize that even though I'm very helpful to people and I offer, I still feel like I don't I still feel like the songwriting, the people who come to my workshops, or even the young people that I teach from South America, musical theater, they're like, "Have you been on Broadway?" And I'm like, "No." And I hope that they still find what I have to share valuable. But there are these certain signposts that we have in these different art forms that say that you are now validated with your gift. You are now validated with this gift because you've either your song was a hit, it was on the radio, which we know that that doesn't happen. It's only a few people that go on the radio, but
Yeah.
that you've achieved this level of success, and now you can give back and share.
Hmm.
And I think me being on the journey and sharing and teaching, even though I feel like I still haven't reached the greatest success I would like, um, it still inspires me to keep going, and it makes me feel aligned with purpose. But that is the kind of dance I think I've been in my whole life, which is that being in service to others and still wanting to be in service to my own dream, and that both of them are valuable. But my questions are sometimes for my angels in the sky and my higher self, is like, why are these things harder? It seems, why are
Hmm.
these things harder? Why are these validation signposts, not being clicked, on that level of the video game? I'm like Super Mario, right? Trying to like jump high enough to get the flag at the end, and I'm always like half jumping,
Yeah.
I still complete the level, right? But it's like, that's just my long tangent about life purpose and balance.
My thing was always, because I was in television. I was a TV producer for a bit. I've done numerous things,
Oh.
and it's like I get into a position where I'm happy, I'm comfortable, and then it all goes to shit. And I'm like, okay. So
Mm.
my analogy was always, I get into the candy store, the world is there, it's beautiful, and then it's like, sorry, you gotta go. And I'm like,
But I, but I'm in the camp, but I'm here.
yeah. But it's like, I think for me though, it like kind of playing in the puddle or the
Right.
pothole.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you know what you would like to do, but you can't necessarily do it just yet. And to your point of teaching, I taught a tarot class this year earlier. It's like the second or third time I did it.
I
And
love
I
that.
had I had students that were like, "So are we going to get a certificate?"
I knew you were witchy as soon as it opened up. I
I
was like,
was
oh,
I was
my
born
fellow
Friday
witch.
the 13th in New Orleans, okay?
Oh my God, I love
In
that.
October. So it's like you really can't so they
Wow.
asked me, they're like, "Can I get a certificate?" And I just looked at them and said, "That certificate is not going to make you a good reader. And you can go online and you can pay gobs of money to become a certified tarot reader, but that doesn't mean you're a tarot reader. I read
Absolutely.
intuitively. You can learn all the little nooks and crannies, and there's a lot of teachers that teach the class where you can become a tarot reader in I think it's not even 5 hours. Sometimes it's only 2 hours. Pay me $90. I'll teach you how to read the tarot. I'll give you a deck, and off you go. My class was 10 weeks, an hour a week, and we went through every card and we went through several different decks to look
Oh,
at
I
the
love that.
difference.
I love tarot very much.
But this is what I'm getting at. So it's just like your class, you teaching other people the songwriting, the joy of songwriting. It's all about nuance. Nobody else in the business is going to teach songwriting like you do. And that's something, not to overstep, but I think that's something that you've missed on, because you have to accept that no matter what, you are teaching something and giving a gift that nobody else can give. No matter what accolades, no matter how they view you, you internally have to realize that you have this gift that you're able to give somebody else, and you don't know where that's going to take them. And while that's not fully following your dream, I think in the potential you will have the ability to follow that dream, but you have to come to terms with the service is what helps, and I'm giving them a gift and a reward that nobody else is going to give them. And I'm
I
giving them
agree.
time that
Yeah,
nobody else may give them. Because
that's fair.
your work that I was looking at, you were writing songs for people that did not have the potential, mothers with kids that were in, homeless shelters. You were writing with kids that were incarcerated. I mean, nobody, how do I say this? You are writing with the people that are forgotten. And that,
Some
my
of the
friend,
best,
and
and
that just,
honestly,
go ahead.
some of the best songs, like some of the things I'm the most proud of is what I've done with them. That's what I mean. It's like that's why I know that whatever signpost didn't get checked off, like, but whatever brought me to those places in my life, if I had gotten the big tour or the record deal when I was 24, Atlantic passed on me and I was in the, talks very early. Like I've been in the industry so long that there was no reason, like, you know what I mean? Like there was no absolute reason why I didn't get a skyrocket out of here, quote unquote, but probably back then really, really bad deals anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I do think that there's a design of what I was meant to put my energy towards and the things that I really, really love. And, some of those moments that I have, like I haven't worked in the prisons since the pandemic when it was shut down. They recently have started the programs again, but I'm not involved at this point. But I want to be again, like I would like to work with all different kinds of populations. And earlier, well, when I was in Wisconsin, I was doing a show out there in Milwaukee, and I knew I wanted to work with seniors. I just asked the senior center if I could come and just play music for them and then write a song for them, just volunteer. And doing that again, once again, was like such a reminder, just sitting with all of these beautiful elders, having them share with me what they've learned throughout their life, and then being able to reflect back to them and then put that in song was so valuable. And so I truly know that those experiences are a part of my life's purpose. And I am really good at helping other people do that. And I'm still also in my own writing, working and finding ways to do that for myself too, because I also need that healing, and sometimes I give that to myself, which is, and I did in a lot of these last songs that I recorded and released. And there's more in me to heal.
Well, and you shared a beautiful moment once again in your Instagram stories about the Fiona Apple story, and how it
Oh,
came full
wow.
circle at that event that you're talking about, at that Woman in Rock thing. And that's the thing, when you're able to sit there and have that full circle moment. When I first published my book, there was one person I wanted to give it to. And this person was a musician, and the book's about a musician. And it was like, out of everything that I did for this book, it was one moment I wanted to have. And so I ended up being able to give them that book. And the most amusing photo I have is there's a photo of me meeting him like years and years ago, and I'm holding the tour program. And in that other photo, there's a picture of him holding my book.
Oh my God. Okay, now I need to know who it is though.
I'm not saying online.
Ah!
I'll tell you offline, but I will not tell you online.
Okay, I hear you, but now I want to know about your book too. So,
It's
okay,
about a drugged out rock star, so
there you go.
yeah, yeah. But we're digressing to me, and I don't want to do that because I really want to. I want to talk about your song, "Heartbroken Ones," because you experienced something kind of at the same time I was experiencing it, and that was the loss of your father during the
Mhm.
pandemic. I
Yeah.
lost my husband during the pandemic,
Oh,
and the whole thing about it, and I don't think we really examined it. We don't talk about how death was different during the pandemic. We didn't have the big memorial services or the wakes or anything like that, and you were
funeral,
isolated.
nothing.
And I know you went through some other traumas at the same time. So it's like I don't think we really recognize when you went through that, or any of us went through that, that there wasn't the people that were there to hold your hand and lift you up and go, it's going to be okay. It was more about how the hell am I going to face all this by myself?
Yeah, no, it was brutal. I mean, no, I never had a funeral for my father. My father was a very big person and he has a history in the music industry and um I still have something that I want to do for him, but I wasn't gonna, and still now I'm not gonna organize something. Like I was like it's already happened. Like it feels
Mm-hmm.
hard to go backwards. Um, yeah, I mean, the trauma of just of that whole year, first of all, of just losing my dad in the pandemic itself, just like where I was when he went to the hospital, I couldn't see him. Like I had read about this happening with a mother or with a daughter and a father, and she's like on the phone with her dad and as he took his last breath, and I'm reading this and I'm like, this is crazy. Meanwhile, my dad was at home and doing okay, and then his anxieties started to increase the more and more they were like, you can't go here, and everything was closing, and he had fallen at home, which led to kind of a decline, a very quick decline, which, as far as we were concerned, my father was a cockroach. He was never going anywhere. Like he was
Yeah.
going to be forever. And so it was so shocking. And I think I plummeted into survival mode, solo survival mode, because I realized at that point, even if I had help, even if people came and brought me, like I didn't get to, like, we sat Shiva because my father was Jewish, even though we weren't raised Jewish. I tried to do like and read the Kaddish and like do these rituals that I wasn't familiar with, but I didn't have anybody bringing me food. Like I
Yeah.
got a gift card, like I didn't get people coming to visit. What you're supposed to have, like all this love, I didn't get any of that. And so it kind of also made me really see who was there, who was able to like push past pandemic stuff or whatever. Um, it solidified certain friendships for me for sure. But yeah, it put me and it was a strange thing because I was also super creative that same year. Like we were isolated at home, but I was doing a lot of work online. So I was writing songs for different projects and I was just producing song. And I was like, my dad's a songwriter. I'm like, Dad, are you with me? Is this why all these songs are coming? Like it was just so much. And so I was going through this bizarre kind of like deep mourning and extreme anxiety, and then like an abundance of creativity. And then I left New York with my boyfriend at the time. Even though my body and my heart were telling me that that something was wrong, you know.
Mhm.
But I had already gone through so much that I couldn't even figure out where the wrong was coming from, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I went to live in New Hampshire at a friend's house for 2 years.
Wow.
And so I was gone from New York. I'd only come back to deal with things for my dad's estate. Um, and then within those 2 years, my relationship progressed in a way that I thought was better than it was going to be. And then I would question it, but then he was cheating on me. So it turns out he was cheating on me. Um, all the while when I had found out I was pregnant too, and I had had a miscarriage, and
Sorry.
it was like I went through like the worst thing in my life ever to kind of getting back to like normalcy for a moment. And then everything went to shit again. And I refused to just be sad or wallow. Like I really, or like not wallow, but like I I had to fight to stay in joy. And it's an interesting journey that I'm in now because I went on medication during that time. And I recently just have come off of it. And so I'm in a very interesting, reflective time. And music is always a part of that because, as a creative, we have to feel all our feelings,
Hmm.
the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, and not at the, I would say not at the, the expense of your sanity. But the fact is that the people that we loved were insane. The artists that we love are a bit crazy, and because they're human, they're in that deep human experience. And the medication that I was on was Lexapro, and it definitely helped me balance out myself. And I was still able to be creative. It didn't take it all away, but it definitely changed me in a certain way that I wasn't sure was the best way for me as an artist. Maybe it helped me function in certain ways, but to really create something that I loved and was passionate about, I needed to find what that was again, after so much loss and confusion, and also just collectively um, at this time in the world. Um, it's very, I wouldn't say it's easy, but I say there's a lot of avenues to numb your emotions.
Hmm.
There's a lot of ways we can numb ourselves, and sometimes we really have to. And I'm an advocate for medication if it makes you live a better life, like 100%, because I have most people in my life I know take something, and I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, drugs. Um, but the depths that I know I'm here, I do feel like I don't want to be shy with the pothole. I don't want to be shy with the whatever bones I need to collect down there, and because I know I'm going to make a really cool sculpture with it. I know I'm going to make a new dress. I'm with whatever scraps I find. Like I know I can transform this. Um, and thank you for reminding me about the work that I've done in the past with the kids, because I have always been an advocate for helping people transform their lives. And I sometimes forget that I can do that for myself, because it's much harder to do things for yourself. And that's something that I was just talking about earlier today. And I think that there's a design in that too. There's a reason why we can really help each other.
Hmm.
Like I could look at your life and be like, you know what? Bing, bang, boom, boom, boom. You could do this, right? And then I couldn't tell it to myself because we're supposed to mutually exchange help. We're supposed to mutually help each other get the job done. Like there is a design. That's why everyone will tell you, oh, it's how many people say that, right?
Hmm.
Oh, I can tell you what to do, but oh, if I tell myself, I'll never do it.
as a reader, as a tarot reader, I my readings aren't necessarily prognostication. It's more about going within and helping you work on what's going
Mhm.
on. And yeah, there's no doubt that I'm in the middle of a reading and I'm telling somebody something and I'm like, uh-huh, I got it. Yeah, it's about me too. I get it. Don't sure I understand because my guides are giving me
Mhm.
information and I'm just like, mm-hmm. I know this person came to me because I'm supposed to hear this damn message too.
I
But
love that. A
but
reflection.
yeah, but we don't always, it's always easier to tell somebody else, or even if somebody really close to us tells us something, but yet a total stranger will tell us the same thing, and suddenly that total stranger has more validation than the person that we were with.
And the power of the stranger. So I wrote a song called Dear Stranger, I Love You, based on a man that held up a poster that said, Dear Stranger, I love you. You deserve to be loved. And he held up this poster on the anniversary of his wife's death and said that she used to do things like this. So now he is doing it in honor of her. I never found the guy again, but a lot of people have done like hello stranger kind of events outside, like getting stranger stories. But I made like a blog that I made buttons that I'd give out because I believed that every time I would meet a stranger and they would talk to me out of nowhere, right? I'd be
Mm-hmm.
sitting on a park bench and someone would just appear, or I'm on a subway and someone starts crying, and I'm like, I felt like the reason why we listen to strangers is because it does feel magical.
Mm-hmm.
There's a magic about it. It feels like it's the voice of God. And when it's people that are close to us, we can't equate them as being a part of the God either.
Yeah.
You know, like or the whatever, the magic. It's like they're too mundane. They've become a part of the assimilation.
Mm-hmm.
So when we find a stranger, it's like, oh, we're at that part in the video game where the new person pops up with information and we need to listen now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like I have this song that I haven't finished yet, but it's in the spirit of a character that I've created, and she's a performance artist, and she says, I don't pray at the ashram. I don't pray at the church. I pray at the feet of the stranger. And that is like a side of me that comes out in this woman's kind of energy where she's like, they are my guru. Like, and it's not them all the time. It's the moment that they're a stranger in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like just that random bizarre occurrence. Like that's the guru. Cause like it's not like this unhealthy worship and idol, you know?
Right.
It's just a moment where two strangers connect and it feels like magic. I'm like, that's my guru. Just that moment
Mm-hmm.
in itself, you know? It's because because it's not owned by either people. It's just the moment.
Right. There was a time when my husband and I were walking through Joann Fabrics because he would make tarot bags and stuff. And this
Oh,
woman was following us. She would come, she'd be down, we were on an aisle, and next thing you know, she's on the aisle and she's looking at us, acting like she's looking at something else. We'd move another aisle, she'd show up. She did this for like a half hour. We're in the checkout line. She shows up behind us. And she goes, I just have to say something to you guys. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, you remind me and my husband, my late husband. You guys look so much in love and so genuine, and I just had to say something, and I enjoyed watching you. And that's all she said. And it was a gift because somebody saw our love. And so, yeah, it was like the side quest for us. It was like, okay, what are we doing here? What's going on here?
I
And
love
then
that.
she gave us this bit of information that somebody that I mean, it was better than when he was in the nursing home rehabbing from his heart surgery, and I'm having dinner with him, and this woman comes by and she's like, "Oh, it's so nice that you're having dinner with your dad." He just had more gray in his hair. He was only 2 years older than me, but yeah, we're like, or we're leaving a restaurant. Let me get the door for you and your father.
Dad.
And
Oh,
he's like, "I'm not that old." I'm like, "I know you're not, but." But this is the thing. It's like that information that somebody else gives us. Sometime it's the nugget we need to hear. Like last week when I was taping episodes of the podcast, somehow in every conversation the statement came up. Well, it's all about being in the right place at the right time and the right opportunity. Okay. Friday night, I went out to dinner with one of my friends. Everything that could go wrong at the restaurant went wrong. Our food was delayed. And then my friend's like, hey, isn't that such and such from, this place where you did some voice work? I'm like, yeah. She's like, I'm pretty sure it is. So she sees her move, and I turn around and we start talking and we reconnect. But the funny thing is, had the food not gotten screwed up, we would have been gone.
You would have been gone.
So all week
That's when I'm
long,
like,
there's that message,
design.
all that week, you know, be at the right place at the right time. Okay.
I like that. And I like to believe that. And I like to remember that, especially when I feel like, when you have moments of for me in the terms of reflecting, back on my life and looking at when I feel like I made a mistake, where I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if I had just done this, this would have changed this and this and this, right? And I know that that doesn't help. Like, like it doesn't help to go down those, but it makes me go, well, I can change that now.
Mm-hmm.
I could do the same thing I did 10 years ago, but complete that loose end, tie up that bow so that and so then now I can see if that actually does change what I thought it would have changed
Right.
back then. So that's the power that we have and the control over now. But it's like, look, it's interesting how easy it is to get lost in trying to find the mistake, like
Mm-hmm.
it's that doesn't help. That doesn't actually help. Like what is the learning from that? Really honing into on that deeply.
So there's rumors that Scissor Sisters is getting back together to do something. Are you going to be part of that?
Um,
You don't know. That's okay.
I, I have a really good feeling. I was only a background singer a few times in my life because I never felt like I could live that life happily. And thankfully, my first and major job I ever got as a background singer was with them. But they barely even treated us like that. Like they really gave us a lot of support and love and all of that and in that configuration. And in this new one, there may be more to do. So we'll see.
We will see. I want to talk to you a little bit about because I know we're running a little long, and that's okay. I'm okay with that as long as you are.
We definitely have to like talk after this
Oh,
too.
yes, we will. We will. But I mean, I want to talk to you about being the mistress of ceremonies.
Yes, darling.
That takes a lot of guts. I mean, that just, I
Uh,
watched some of your performance and I mean, it's great and it looks fabulous, but that takes a lot of guts and a lot of self-confidence, which I know you don't lack any of, but
in the very beginning when I got the job, or one this incredible burlesque performer called the Main Attraction, she had seen me perform at a disco night, and I had done this like kind of tribute to Bette Midler, and was in a towel and a thing, two towels, and then I like took it off and like did this really fun routine. Um, and she's like, you have to go audition for Dwayne Park to be the mistress of ceremonies there. And I had done so many shows up at that point where I had been on stage talking about myself and my life and like experimenting with all of these weird things. Like I had definitely like busted through a lot of insecurities that I had about being a performer by then. It had been like from 2013 it had been 5 years of creating show after show, or like one performance where I dressed up like my grandmother and like stripped out of my grandmother and like did these constant kind of performances, so that when I got this opportunity, it felt like a relief
hmm
because all I had to do was show up, look great, and be myself and sing and connect to the audience. But I will say, one of the owners and managers, he had to like remind me that I was in control and that I didn't have to be self-deprecating, because I was like, oh, right. In my shows, I'm always kind of like a little self-deprecating and like, he's like, oh no, here you are a dominatrix. you are the one making it all run. And if they don't listen to you, they're the ones that are going to get spanked, you know?
Nice. Yeah.
And I hadn't really been in that position of being literally the mistress, like the one who was orchestrating the energy of the night. And so I didn't always feel confident in the very beginning. I had to like psych myself out a few times. Um, and now obviously I've been doing it for so long. The only thing that they have to tell me to do is stop talking so much. Because now I love going over to tables and talking to this person and like finding the joke and like, oh, where are you from? Oh, I've been there. I met a guy there in a hostel and like we had sex in the kitchen, like telling a funny
Yeah.
story. That is so much fun for me to make everyone else have it has allowed me to be shining and also in service at the same time because I really aim to make everyone laugh, feel beautiful, feel adored. Like it's when they're looking at women and men take off their clothes, it's a very sensual experience. So there's that naughtiness and that, mystery and sexuality that comes in and out that gets played with. And so that is a different kind of in service to at least, but I always still bring it back to this is our show and this is a community experience. And so talk to your neighbor, tell them they look good. Like
Mhm.
I still make it like a church, but like a naughty church. I call it naughty church.
It works. So
It's fun.
in the Love Junkie, were you dressed as Annie? My friend was watching your clips and she's like, "Well, was she dressed as Annie?" I'm like, "I believe it was."
So that part of the show came out of the fact that I was a kid actor
Hmm.
and it was inspired by the fact that I went to an audition, which ended up being in a later show where I told this story and played this character, where I went to audition for Janis Joplin and it had been like, I don't know, I'd auditioned to play Janis so many times and never got it. And I'm actually fine with that. Because I don't want to hurt my voice like she did. But I went to this audition and there was a woman who was like 60 years old auditioning for Janis.
Hmm.
And her real name was Michelle Guido, but I ended up giving the character a different name based on another older woman that I knew. And she was so confident at this audition. And she just had so much wisdom, but she was a lunatic, like she was
Hmm.
dressed crazy. And she was like, I can do her for you. She's like, what is that sheet music? And she literally talked out of the side of her mouth like this. What is that sheet music? You mean I needed to bring sheet music? I'm a blues singer. If the piano player doesn't know how to play a 12-bar blues, I'll sing that shit a cappella. I mean, it was gold. So that inspired the idea. If I was her age,
Okay.
still auditioning,
Okay.
going to audition for Annie, and
Okay.
how ridiculous that would be, since I never actually played Annie except like in summer camp. So that's where that came from. Um, and because I had also played Dorothy in a commercial as a kid, like just this iconic, obviously
Hmm.
iconic image. And I got to sing this song that I love that Bette Midler wrote called "Oh Industry." And it was really my song to the industry and how long I'd been working and will I ever be loved.
I think you're more
That
loved than you realize, but yeah, to win tickets to see Annie the movie, I sang tomorrow on the radio in high school. Yes. Hmm. Hmm.
that's adorable. Fun
Hmm.
fact.
But yeah, there was another time I sang on the radio, but that's beside the point. To win tickets once again, the stupid things you do to win
Wow.
tickets, but yeah. Um, so yeah, because your show looked amusing, I have to ask, what was it like to be on Sesame Street? Because you knew behind you the mystique for you was all gone.
Oh my God, I saw the guy inside Big Bird.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I did it like that. There was like one main episode that I remember, but I was on it multiple times. I was one of the kids that was like always reused. Um, I mean, it was a job. It's weird. I have these funny memories because they used to shoot like 3 blocks from where I grew up. So all I had to do was walk to work. But I'm 5 years old going to work, It's like
Yeah.
I knew it was a job, but it was like a really like it was oh my God, it's like a weird feeling. I didn't want to fuck it up, Like
Yeah.
it was like Sesame Street was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember forgetting my line. And it was the first time I had experienced like that fear of like fucking up on camera. And we just rolled with it. And every time again, I'd forget the line. And it was such a pressure for a kid,
Yeah.
be so young and like, you know, but it was still magical, it's still a magical thing to have been a part of it for sure. But working as a kid actor is not if you are an anxious kind of kid and if you're just like perfect, I don't know what kids aren't anxious, but
Yeah.
it definitely was my first experience of like, oh my God, I can't fuck this up.
So then we're gonna time travel to what was it like? Because I know you had a reoccurring role on SVU.
Oh, well, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had as an actress because I was in that scene with an incredible woman, Mariska Hargitay. She is actually an incredible person. She's not only great to work with, she was really funny, and she loved me playing this role. Like they thought they couldn't get it over it. And I think she must have had a hand in having me rewritten again into 2 more episodes.
Nice. Nice.
They loved bringing her back. I kept saying, I told the writer, I was like, you need to make a more permanent role for her. What if she's like a informant?
Too bad she couldn't show up again.
I know.
That would be
He did.
pretty.
The writer was really awesome, though. He did write me into another TV show that he was working on. But yeah, who knows? Maybe she'll come back.
And then you did Blue Bloods.
Yeah, that's the same writer.
Okay. So he liked you, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, they do bring you in once you're like that's the reason. It's like once you start working, I always feel like I do tell this to the younger people. You give people what they want when you're working, they bring you back into different projects. Like I have a guy who I worked with on this TV show called Vinyl. I sang on the show
I watched
in a
that.
band.
Hmm.
And he has brought me back and the other person who casted that show. I mean, I must have worked 10 times, 11, 12 times just through that one person who hires mainly singers and musicians for film and TV. I was on in The Irishman. They cut our role out of it, but I was a singer in The Irishman in one of their huge scenes where every actor is in it. They're like at this big banquet hall. And I worked on that show for a week. I only actually worked 3 days, but I got paid a week's salary on that movie, and that was incredible. Um, it's really amazing to see how relationships do work in this industry. Like when I look at the ones that have really, like I have a job today for a commercial singing a voiceover, same guy.
Nice.
Once they find people, they don't want to have to find a new person. They want to
Right.
find. And so that's the blessing of that of the industry. And it may not be something you'll ever hear or that I even care that you hear, but it does keep a girl working.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I worked on my best friend's wedding and I remember being, yes, it was as an
Oh, I
extra,
love that
but I
movie.
was I was like I was one of the last ones picked out of this big cattle call room. I'm like, oh, this means I'm definitely not going to be seen. I'm not going to be anywhere near anything. And in the scene, you can't see, I'm a green blur. In the scene where she darts out of the bakery truck. I'm walking with this other girl and we're talking. She's running into Union Square or Union Station. And me and this other girl are talking, and they're like, okay, when the truck stops and she runs out, just ignore it. And I'm looking at the girl going, first I was like, what? I'm going to have Julie Roberts run past me?
And I have to
Okay.
ignore it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. Well, he was coming in through the other side, which that's a whole other story. But I'm like, okay, so she's gonna run past us, okay. But we were both like, this is Chicago. Nobody's just gonna keep walking. They're gonna stop and be like, what the hell's going on here? It'd be like New York. Everybody's
Reality.
yeah, but no, we want you just to keep walking by, ignore it. Well, on the other side of Union Station, they were like, okay, we want you to stay close to the curb. Don't worry about it. He's not going to jump the curb. You're going to be safe and everything. He jumped the curb and broke the axle of the car. Everybody was fine. Nobody got hurt. But yeah, it was like, mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
My extra scenes in The Negotiator got cut because they had hosed down the area, and when we ran out of the building, somebody fell, so they cut it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, mm-hmm. But I mean, it was something to do. That's why I did the extra work. But I got called back to work on my best friend's wedding several times, and that's the thing. If you show up and you do your thing, then you're gonna get the call back, and you never know
It's
where
very,
that's gonna go.
it's true. I mean, even like, bringing up Scissor Sisters, I mean, like that I knew even when I was doing the work with them 10 years, whatever, 15 years ago. Oh my God. 15 years ago.
Time, it moves.
No, it doesn't feel right. Anyway, time.
Well, was it in the 90s?
No,
It
no,
was
it's
in,
2010 to 2012.
well, that's almost 15 years.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, I felt like I knew that I was going to show up with my best energy, which meant like I also wasn't going to be shy. I was going to be my most proud, loud self. And I definitely think that it served me, and I did have a lot of confidence when I was there. Um, and I think, you know, yeah, I mean, keep showing up, right?
Hmm. And before we wrap this up, there's two more things I want to talk about real quick. One, you opened for Lady Gaga. What was the energy like opening for her?
Well, that was when I was with Scissor
Okay.
Sisters,
Okay.
and we were on the Monster Ball tour, which
Oh,
was
wow.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
We, 20 Mack trucks, you
Mm-hmm.
know, huge stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
We played for a half an hour. And most of the time we would drive to the next city. So we would do our own show and then be there for the next day to do her show. But when we were there, we would stay afterwards, after our set, and just go right next to the stage. So I was watching Gaga enter from backstage. I have a fun little history about her. Before the show, every time I saw her, I could hear her. She was always warming up singing Whitney Houston.
Really?
Yep.
That's
Every
amusing.
single time. It must be her like power source or might be something vocally for her. But I thought that was really cool that she did that. I mean, it was an insane
Oh,
experience.
I can
Like
imagine.
I had a lot of cool connections with her band and her dancers. And in fact, I had a crazy connection with one of her main dancers. I'm in the middle of the cafeteria. We just started the tour. Everyone was so nice, so happy. Everyone was so happy. I was like, is there a rule that you can't be unhappy here? Because I'm a little scared that you're all so fucking happy and nice. So he comes over to me though, and he's like, I know you. And I was like, what? How? He's like, we went to camp together. And then my brain went, blah, blah, blah. And I've been to a few camps in my life, but the main camp I went to was French Woods, which is a performing arts camp. But this guy was like, no, we went to this summer camp when we were like in fifth grade, and he was with his school, and I was with my school, and it was only 1 week of summer camp. And all of a sudden, I remembered this 1 week of camp in fifth grade where all my friends in my class were not my friend anymore. People were being so mean to me. I was being bullied. And I became friends with this other crew of kids that were from the other school. And he was one of them. And
Nice.
him and like four of his other friends, I was like, oh, and all of a sudden I remembered all of their names. I was like, Reggie, Taisha. Like I just started, and he's like, yes, I'm friends with all of them on Facebook still. And it was just it blew my mind that we hadn't seen each other since we were 10. And now here we were on this
Hmm.
crazy tour. And it definitely felt like it was meant to be, like this all kind of happened for a reason.
Yeah,
So
that's
magic
that.
things would happen like that all the time.
But I mean, that's when things like that happen, it's always like there's this call from the past that just pulls you right back in. And it's amazing. It's an amazing thing because we never think that anybody's going to remember us for that length of time.
And that's what also what hit me was like, he's like, oh yeah, you were always a star. I remember I could never forget you. And it was just because on that tour it was tough. I'm not gonna lie. Like opening for Gaga was cool, but I wasn't I wasn't living my dream.
Right, right.
I wasn't living my dream. I was getting paid nicely. I was going on a crazy journey, but my talent is like my own work in front of people, connecting the way that she was doing it. I just knew I didn't want to do it like that big, but that looks stressful, honey.
Oh yeah.
I What a life. And that's another thing is like I saw her and you could just tell that she had to fake something. She
Hmm.
just had to protect herself and be this like athlete robot to just be able to execute her job.
Well, and I think that happens when you become such a phenomenon. You have to put on a mask, and I would say anybody in the celebrity world, you have to put on a mask because you have to preserve a piece of you. Because
Absolutely.
when you lose yourself, that's when you start the decline. That's when you start the downfall.
Mm.
And I mean, Britney Spears is a great example of that because she lost herself in all of that. Circling back to Gaga real quick, I what gave me mad respect for Gaga was when she performed on Saturday Night Live with just her and the piano. Because I was just like, you've stripped everything down. And to me, this was just this pure performance. And that's when I was like, yeah, this is not just this show of a meat dress and everything else. This woman has talent and she has a
Yeah,
gift.
definitely. Always has and had to find a new way to be expressed, to have her art be expressed,
Hmm.
you know? And I get that. I play with all the different mediums because for me, sometimes me and the acoustic guitar, it's not my vibe.
Right. I
You know,
get it.
I need to feel the band, or I need to feel a track, or I need to feel something really weird. I need to put on a weird costume. Like I get it, it's like you have to go with what also feels right for you in the moment, even if like other people are like, why are you doing these crazy things?
Yeah. It's not for them to figure out. Um,
Sometimes you dress up like old Annie,
yes, yes. And if it
you
gets the
know?
message across, then that's all that matters. I love Moulin Rouge. I love Strictly Ballroom, and I know you worked with Baz Luhrmann.
I did.
So, how was that experience? Because I mean, he's such a visual artist and a creative. So, how was that?
Well, I had been working with his right-hand man, Elliot Wheeler, and pumping out tracks after tracks for the show The Get Down. And one of my favorite things I got to do was I got to sing a Sia song. It went from Sia to me, and then my version was played live on set. And then Christina Aguilera did the final version. It's all right. It's okay. This is how these things go. They kept some of my background vocals on that track though and never told me, but that's another story about this dirty business. Um, But it was very cool that Sia wrote it, I sang it, then Christina learned it to me
Nice. Yeah.
and had to do it how I did it because of there was a drag queen lip syncing to me on set. And so we had done a lot of stuff. And then there was this moment in the show where they needed a character who was going to be the voice of this famous record that they loved. And Elliot was like, I think it's you. I'm going to just really I'm going to have Baz come in when you're here. So I came in, it was like right around my birthday. And he was just a sweetheart, man. Like I just really liked the guy, he was just quirky. And I had told him where I was coming from, where at the time I was working in the juvenile detention center, and he was fascinated by that. And he wanted to hear more about it. So he wanted to hear me tell him, and he's like, if there's any songs that the kids have written that you think would be good on the show. I'm like, I don't know if I have power like that, but there was one song I ended up sending him. They loved it, but they obviously couldn't do anything about it. But the fact that he cared about that, I thought was really cool. And then he just directed me to sing, and he's like, I need, he would tell me, he's like, this is your life. This is your moment. Like he was really, I can't do his accent, but
I get it.
he really was very passionate. And,
Nice.
and I still get his holiday greetings.
Oh,
He would
okay.
send like cookies or like a card with like a ornament or
Nice. Nice.
it's really sweet.
It's the thought that counts, and it's the.
I'm somehow on
Hey,
the thing.
that could lead to something else one day. You never know. You never know. So I did listen to good things, and I think, there was a lot of rawness and realness in that song, and I did find myself getting a little misty-eyed, and I don't, there was something to it. And the Heartbroken ones, I like the fact that it was touching, but you also said it's a song not for the lovers, it's the song for the people that are brokenhearted. And I think that we have a lot of people that don't exactly acknowledge that. And of course, Brighter
Yeah.
Days was awesome. Yes, I could see the whole club vibe to Brighter Days. We
Awesome. Yeah, that was a
collaborated
good
with.
one
Yeah.
with
So I
Todd
mean,
Terry.
and even when I did listen to Dear Stranger.
The
There was
old school,
yeah, I mean, it was like a totally different vibe from
so
what you
different.
have now to
Yeah.
then. And so I think you have a very good catalog, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of potential there for you to continue this journey and keep going. So, is there
Thank
anything
you.
we haven't talked about here that you would like to talk about or
Well, I
add?
will say that what when I wrote Heartbroken Ones, it really did help me. I was singing it all day, every day after I found out that my boyfriend had been cheating on me. Um, and I had accepted it almost immediately that I found out that he had been cheating, that it was over now, and my life was going to completely change. And I welcomed it. I was like, I can do this, but it didn't matter if my brain had made the decision, my heart and my body just needed to break. It just needed to cry. And I believe that we forget that we sometimes it's just an actual energetic thing that needs to happen. And so when I finished the song, I was like, okay, I'm not heartbroken anymore. Um, but I know that this was like exactly that kind of thing that I wanted to give to someone else. That if they can feel, and I didn't write, there was a line that I ended up changing when I recorded it where I say it is what it was. And when I said that, that was the final healing that I needed. And so it's pretty amazing how my own song can do that for me. But I truly do love helping other people get through heartbreak. And that's something that I want to continue to do. I've given a couple of songwriting workshops one-on-one, which I call medicine songs, where people can sit with me and their heartbreak, and we write a song about it and we transform it. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to do. So I love to share that with whoever I talk to, because you never know if there's someone listening who wants to write about their heartbreak or their grief or something, and get it out.
Yeah. And that information can be found on your website, which will be linked in the bio.
Yes,
So,
yes.
well, I thank you for coming on.
Thank you, darling.
I love talking to Bridget. It was a great time, and yes, we did talk off camera. Um, Bridget is a multi-talented actress, singer, and I would say someone, even though she said that she hasn't really hit those goalposts, those milestones that you might have on a side quest. The thing is, she has made a difference for a lot of people. And sometimes when we make a difference for people, we don't actually recognize it. We don't see it because it's done behind the scenes. And that is a challenge to be proud of who we are without waving a flag about the good works that we've done. You know, sometimes like cleaning out my house. When I was cleaning out my house, most of that stuff, yes, I shared a couple of pictures that it went to charity. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes we do good works without sharing or giving information or even talking about it, and that's okay. And it's interesting today because it's Valentine's Day when I'm releasing this episode, and yet we talked about the loss of love. And even her song, Heartbroken Ones, is about the people that are heartbroken. And I think that's something that we don't talk about enough is that the energy of that loss and how that grief can affect us. And it's something that I am still grappling with. After 4 years, I've come to the conclusion that yes, I have dealt with his actual physical death, but I haven't dealt with the journey of leading up to his death. I haven't dealt with the closing the door on giving the keys to the owner of my new home. I haven't dealt with any of that because I had to keep moving because I knew, especially like the closing of the house. I handed over the keys in November and I knew by mid-December I had to be ready in my new home, in my new office, ready to go for taping podcast. And that's fine. I'm not complaining, but that takes away that time to be alone and to sit with your emotions. And I think that's a big thing for us that we don't always sit with our emotions. We just keep going and going and going. And if you have a way to channel it, like Bridget, she will sit there and write a song about it and help others deal with their grief by writing a song about it. By doing that, it allows us to channel that grief somewhere. I did some of that during my writing, during that year that right after my husband passed, kind of like when she was saying that she was very creative in 2020. I was as well. I wrote a scene about a mother losing a child. Now, while I have never physically gone through what the character went through, I did recognize those emotions because when I chose to walk away from my first marriage, I had to give up those children. And so I had to deal with those emotions of giving up and losing those kids. And I know you can sit here and this was a conversation among many of my friends and my late husband. They're not your kids. Here's the thing. People don't have to be blood to be family. People don't have to come from you. You can love somebody, especially a child, even if they're not your own blood. You can love them wholeheartedly. And when you lose them, even if it's by your own choice, when they're no longer in your life, it affects you just like if you lost your kid. Even though you know that they're out in the world somewhere, it affects you because you've lost that. And I'm not taking away from the grief of somebody who has physically lost their own child. But I don't think we give step parents the grace sometimes that they deserve, that they have that emotional attachment just as much. But I'm digressing because this is about Bridget. So, if you've watched SVU, there's a chance you may have seen her on SVU or Blue Bloods. And like I said, when she was younger, she was in all the TV ads. I think her music, it's very different, her newer music versus her older music. And older music was just as good. Her new music has touching moments to it. And like I said to her, Good Things, when I was listening to Good Things, it kind of made me get a little teary eyed. It kind of resonated with me. And Heartbroken Ones, well, you know, we all have heartbreak. We just don't always deal with it. We don't want to deal with it. And the heartbreak can be from anything. I mean, we can lose a friend and feel heartbroken. And I think that's something that we don't recognize, that you're only allowed to be heartbroken if. No, you can be heartbroken for many reasons. But if you want something dancy, go to Brighter Days and you'll be at the club. But I look forward to seeing where her career is going to go, to see if she will indeed do something with Scissor Sisters. And I think if you're in New York, you should go and head to the club and head to Dwayne Park to see the burlesque show, because from the clips I've seen on her Instagram, which I recommend following her Instagram because she's very candid about things and about fame and about her life. Um, I'd highly recommend you checking it out because it looks amusing. And if I get to New York, I most likely go check it out because it looks amusing. But anyway, I digress. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Her dad, for those who were curious, her dad was Mark Birkin, and he wrote songs by Nat King Cole, Connie Francis, Leslie Gore. But the one thing that he wrote that I know him from would be the Banana Splits theme song, One Banana, Two Banana, and Tra La La. So, just in case you're older and you know those songs, her dad did that. So she was always around that creative energy. And even as she said, her grandmother recognized when she was a little baby that she had a singer inside of her. So, on that note, if you like the show, please leave a comment, tell your friends. We're trying to grow the show. We are on season 9, and you know, I'm grateful that I get to do this still. And well, whenever you listen, we appreciate it. And whether it be noon, morning, night, I hope you enjoy the show. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.